Awesome. So thanks for joining me today. This is an intro to FreshGrade with a focus to middle school, high school support staff and TOCs. My name is Meredith Sherman, and I am the Customer Success Manager here at FreshGrade. So my role within the company is to liaise between the company and our district leaders. So I've been working very closely with Jordan Kleckner as well as Graham Johnson as a couple other team members in getting your implementation up and running. And I know that this is not your first year with FreshGrade, but there are some teachers that are new to FreshGrade. So just to reiterate that this is an intro to FreshGrade. It is a high-level overview. The pacing is a little bit faster than we would do with an on-site training. And just a heads up to you as well, we will be on-site delivering some PD on October the 21st. So I'm really excited to meet some of you. And so again, today's session is more of a demo just so that you can see what the features are. You are more than welcome to follow along on your device. I will be predominantly delivering today on the web portal, but certainly if there are any questions, I will try to monitor the chat panel as best I can as I'm delivering, but I will also circle back and answer any questions at the end. Great. So another note for you, I just realized yesterday that my mouse may not display. I'm delivering on a Mac, and we've noticed that there might be some issue with the mouse coming through. It does display on the recordings, which will also be circulated after this session is complete. So I will do my best to just highlight what I am doing, just in case any of you are impacted by the mouse missing. I did put a ticket into GoToMeeting, but they haven't had a chance to get back to me yet to resolve the issue. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and get started here. So today's agenda is we're going to be going over your managed account. So there are some differences between the free and managed, but even if you haven't used a free account in comparison to managed, there's probably some good highlights that I can help you out with. We're then going to move into the digital portfolio and do a high-level overview of the features that lay in there, as well as the gradebook feature. And then, as I said, we will be finishing up with some Q&A today as well. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to open up a tab here for FreshGrade. And so just so that you're aware of what my layout is I have three tabs right here. So I've got a tab that I'll be using for my teacher view. So again, this will be the teacher view on the web panel. And then I also on the center tab will have the student view. And then the far right-hand side here for FreshGrade will reflect the parent view. So I'll have all three accounts looped in so you can see what that experience is and close the loop on any functionality there. So to begin, I'm going to go ahead and log into FreshGrade. Something to call out, if you've never used a FreshGrade account before, I can understand it might be confusing here, a login versus a sign up. Because you are an employee of SD23, you have an account already created for you. So there's no need to sign up. So as a teacher, your login flow on the web portal will look like this. So you notice that there are three discrete login pages. Obviously, as a teacher, we're going to go into teacher. Whoops, I hit the support. Here we go. Let's try that again. Much better. And so we have changed our login flow a little bit. Before you would type in your username and password, but we've streamlined it. So now basically we can recognize more than one account under an email address. So if you had a free account prior to this, you would have been able to migrate it over. But again, for SD23, you guys have been integrated with us for over a year, so you might not have noticed the differences. So the login flow now, as it stands, is you're going to type in your SD23 email address. Obviously, I'm not an SD23 employee, so I'm going to type in a different email address here, but the flow is exactly the same. Excellent. So then I click next. And so you guys are a single sign-on district. So as teachers, you guys use school credentials, if you will, to log into a laptop, to log into your Outlook email box. And so with FreshGrade, this is the nice thing is it'll take you to your own splash page to log in. So you'll enter your school credentials here. And obviously I'm a little bit different. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And a thing to note as well, if you do have an iPad or a smart device, once you've downloaded the app and you've logged in, it will keep you logged in unless you force yourself to log out. So that's just a nice little tip for you as well if you don't like to deal with the login process. So here we go. We are now in the dashboard for FreshGrade. And, there's a lot to cover here. So I'm not going to be able to highlight every single button and feature within the app in this hour and a half. But again, the idea here is that we will iterate on this information. And if there's something here that you want to learn more about, just give Jordan a heads up and we can try to incorporate that into the on-site PD that we'll be delivering on the 21st. So a dashboard, when you log in, is really, really helpful. It does give you insight into how your students are doing in the class. So if you are going to be assessing your students using FreshGrade and using a grade book, this is where you will be able to see a high-level report, if you will, on how your students are doing in the classroom. So here we can see students that have most improved, but then it also flags teachers to let them know that maybe we've noticed some students have been struggling with their performance a little bit. And so that allows you to get an intervention going early. Additionally, you'll also notice that we have notifications here as well. So we try to update teachers if there's been a comment either made by the parent or the student, or if the student has uploaded something, so that you can be aware of activity that's happened on student portfolios. But you can also clear them, of course, as well, as easily as a quick click. So I'm just going to toggle back to my chat panel here and just make sure that I'm not missing any questions. It looks like everybody is good so far. Just let me know if there's anything I can help you out with, and I'll just kind of keep referring back to my chat panel. So the very first thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and set up our classes. So this little arrow here is your account settings dashboard, if you will. So right now I'm under my class for language arts. And if I click on this, this is where you have a couple options, right? So obviously you can log out. You can access our support team if you have any questions or if you need any help even with how the app is functioning, or maybe there's a tech issue. This is where you can go for that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the account settings tab here. Now, depending on who the audience is here today, there could be a couple different scenarios that might reflect the realities of your day-to-day. If you are the enrolling teacher in middle school or high school, you probably have more than just one class listed. Again, high school and middle school, you might teach 3 blocks of social studies of the same grade. If you are a TOC, you actually are probably not going to have any classes. If you're support staff, you're not going to have any classes. If you are a team teacher, the one limitation of the app that we have right now is the extracts that we get from MyEdBC. They only allow us to show one primary teacher, one lead teacher in the class. And so I will show you in just a moment, you can be added. So if you are not enrolled, if you go to log into FreshGrade right now and you have no classes, but you can approach the teacher that is enrolled as the teacher in that class, and they can invite you in. So again, the reality of what we see here when we log in, so again, just over here, this tab right here, account settings, will bring you to this page here, and it'll list all of your classes. And so what we want to do is we are going to have to set up each and every single one of our classes to reflect what we would like to do within FreshGrade. So there is an edit class feature right here, and so you can click on it. And note that you can change the class names. So whatever was pulled in from MyEdBC, sometimes they're not the best naming conventions. And so I would say do something that works for you. Usually dating it is a good practice, just because as we start to archive classes from one year to the next, if you've named your class Social Studies 10, once we start to get into archive classes, you're not going to be able to distinguish between what was a 2015 social studies class and a 2014 social studies class versus a 2017 social studies class. So I hope that makes sense, just to be thoughtful in your naming conventions so that later down the road, when you organize, it'll be a little bit easier for you. Okay. So as we get into this here, we're going to go ahead and edit the settings for each of these classes. And the first part is the objective. So obviously we've had a big curriculum change. The grades 10 to 12 were piloting it last year, but now it is reflected across the province. And so these learning outcomes, we imported them last year when they were being piloted. So please note, when it comes to pulling objectives into your grade book and into activities that they may not be structured exactly as they are this year. The ministry made a couple changes, a couple tweaks after the pilot over the summer. And so for an example, one thing that I can share is that we have filtered our learning standards by kind of buckets, if you will. So like we have big ideas and we have curricular competencies, but one of the buckets that are missing is core competencies. They are in there, they're just not in their own bucket. And so hopefully I'll have time to show you guys what I mean by that, but just know that the core competencies are in there, they're just not under a specific filter. And so we'll come back to that in just a minute. So obviously, if you're wanting to use the gradebook and objectives, we obviously need to select objectives. Sometimes teachers will write us and at support and they will go, hey, I'm trying to create objectives here and they're not showing up in my grade book when I go to create an activity. And so our first thing is do you have the objectives box ticked? And oh, no, it's not. Thank you very much. So make sure that that objective box is ticked. The next piece of this to make sure that your objectives are showing up properly in your grade book is under grades and subjects. So right now, your grade is stuck. Again, being integrated, whatever students are enrolled in your classrooms are the objectives that will be pulled into your class. So if you are teaching a 5-6 split class, you should see grades 5 and 6. If you're teaching, grade 11, 12 class, you should see that split, and those objectives should be pulled in for you. I right now as a teacher myself, I do feel that it's a bit restrictive. It doesn't allow for a lot of individualized learning. So that this is feedback that we have received from many, many teachers as well. And we are looking at revamping our objectives so that it's going to be much, much more flexible. So for an example, if you had a student in grade 10 that passed, but maybe is struggling in a particular area, you could actually assign grade 9 assignments, assess it on that, bring them up to a grade 10 standard and get them caught up with the rest of the class. So there is some work to be done there. As of right now, you are blocked into what classes are represented in objectives, but stay tuned. There's some exciting changes coming in this way. Another call out when we are talking about objectives is the subject tab. And so this is going to be really relevant for those teachers that are teaching core subject areas. So if we click on this right here, you'll notice that I have mine all ticked for all subjects. And so, that's more holistic to an elementary school experience where you do teach all subjects. But if you are, again, just a mathematics teacher, or you focus just specifically in social studies and PE, or whatever subjects you teach, just make sure that you drill down and just select those subjects that relate to you. So you could just clear all, you could select all. And you can go ahead and, just select core subjects. This will also make the objective selection a heck of a lot easier for you as well, just because you're not having to filter through subjects you don't have to teach. So that's a quick little tip for you as well to set up your objectives for your class so they show up properly. I'm just going to check back at my chat panel here. Just making sure. So again, if you have any questions, everybody, feel free to use that chat panel. It's the very bottom section of your GoToMeeting control panel, and you can just leave me some notes there. So then the next section of this account settings tab, this edit class tab, are your assessment tools. And so FreshGrade has gone ahead and populated a couple assessment tools by default for you. And you'll notice that right here it says default, as opposed to these other ones do not have default. So again, you do not have to use these, and we try to make our assessments tools as flexible as possible. Obviously at the high school, middle school level, we are needing to award letter grades. You are needing to award scores. And so, the mastery scale has its place in elementary school and completion. But we do also provide flexibility for creating scores. So really quickly, and again, this is something that we can explore a little bit more in depth. You can have 10 tools maximum at a time. And so in this case, I've got 10. I go to click it, or I deleted one. That's right, in my last session. So I can go ahead and I can create a new tool here, and this is what this looks like. So the assessment tool, we could go ahead and call this, again, we could call this a score. And so this is where you could award a grade point average, right? So this is where you could give it a score out of 5, and this is where we could go ahead and award those marks. So I'm going to create 5 columns, because obviously the student can get anywhere from we could even say 0, so we could actually make 6. So it could go from a 0 to a 5 for a mark. Let me just zoom out a little bit here so I can see better what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's 6. Cool. And so then from here, we can go ahead and award some numbers here. Fun fact for you guys, we just added some new icons. For those of you that may be familiar with the icons, we have changed them. So there are also letter grades now as well. So again, you've spoken, we've listened, and we've added a few more tools in the tool bucket for you guys. So just to show you really quickly how this assessment tool could work. And then maybe for 0, because I noticed that they haven't given us a 0 on here, we could maybe just do a blank, right? So they did not complete, and so we could just say this was a 5. If you wanted to provide some sort of qualitative measure to it, excellent, good, fair, poor, needs improvement, however you want to do that, you certainly can. It's fully customizable. 0 or did not hand in, however you want to approach that. And again, we try to make the tool flexible so that it's going to be intuitive for you. Obviously here in this case, if we're wanting to generate a score, we do want to include it in our grade calculations. But if you were just doing more of a formative assessment, you could just choose to remove that and not have that included in your grade weighting. And so again, points, 5. Oops. There we go. Excellent. And so there you go. That is creating an assessment tool. Right here really quickly, make sure this box is ticked as well, just because when you go to create an activity, if this isn't ticked, this assessment tool will not show up in your toolkit. So that's just another little troubleshooting tip and trick for everybody. And of course, if you don't like a particular assessment column, you can always delete it by clicking the X. And of course, do not forget to click save afterwards. That's an important one. And this is also a really good tip for everybody as well. We try to give you a heads up as best we can. Once you use an assessment tool, so you've gone ahead and created one, and maybe you've gone ahead and created a couple activities and you've assessed some students, just know that you will not be able to edit it. Once it's been used, you're locked into it. So the only way to get rid of it is to remove that assessment tool and reassess the activity. So a big tip and trick for you is make sure you've got your assessment tools set up the way that you would like them at the beginning of the year, just so that it's not causing you any undue work that would be required to fix it once you've started assessing some students. I'm hoping that that makes sense for everybody. Okay. Great, so it's saving. Another little note for you guys, I am streaming audio and video right now, so the app might be a little bit slow just because I am delivering this from home on my Wi-Fi. So do keep that in mind for any performance that you might be seeing. Excellent. So we've gone ahead and we've created the score. So there it is right there, my score, and we can open that guy up. And you'll notice that because I've created it and I also have not applied it to any assessments yet, I can go in and make changes and edit this. I can still add a mark, I can X out, etc. So I'm just going to cancel. Now, please note this though, any default tools, you'll notice that because we've created them for you, you can't edit them. You'll notice that the add mark is missing. There's no X's. So if there is an existing default assessment tool that you like, but maybe there's just something that you want to tweak or change, you will have to duplicate it. So go new tool, copy those features and make those adjustments. And then I'd recommend just delete the old default tool afterwards to make more room for any other assessment tools that you might want to use. So that is a quick rundown of assessment tools, and we can certainly expand on that a little bit more when we have our PD on the 21st. The next section of your class, and this is important for, again, assessment and weighting of grades, is categories. And so, again, categories, if you want to approach it, it can just be used as a tag, just like anything else. But again, as we get into the middle school and high school levels, obviously, if you're wanting to use the grade book for tracking grades, you're going to have to set up a weighting and what kind of activities make up your percentage. And so here you'll see an example of what I've created. My understanding is that we don't put any defaults in for managed users. They'll have to create their own. So if we just open up one of these, you'll see how we've gone ahead and created the weighting process. So it's got to be out of 100. We have added a formative assessment category as well. Excellent. And so then the final piece of our account settings tab here is the class sharing feature. And again, this is going to be really, really important for those of you that don't have classes in your FreshGrade account, but you do want one. You do want to be invited in as a colleague so you can collaborate on your portfolios. So it's very, very basic. So you need to go ahead and approach the teacher that actually has the class in their account on FreshGrade. They'll need to go into this box here and they'll have to type in your email address. Now, please note that because you are integrated with us, aka we have sunk with your SIS system, MyEdBC, the only email address that our system will recognize for the SD23 FreshGrade account is your sd23.bc.ca email. This is partially a decision that was made for security purposes. Obviously, we don't want a non-SD23 employee to have access to student class lists, student photos, and personal information. So if you try to send, if you type in an email address and press send on an email that is not an SD23 email address, it will act like it sent the email, but it just will never be received on the other end. So just a heads up on that. Also, sometimes these invites that do get sent out, they can end up in people's spam boxes, depending on the rules that have been set up from the provider, the email provider. So definitely, if you don't see that coming through, please do check your spam and hopefully you can get it through. If not, this is where you would reach out to our support team at support@freshgrade.com, and they'd be able to look in on the back end and see what's going on and why you can't get into your class. Awesome. So, of course, the final piece of this page is, again, Tech 101, always save your work. So after you've gone ahead and made changes, I haven't made any that I want to keep today, so I'm just going to go ahead and cancel out. But please, please make sure if you've been doing some major work in here that you do save your work. It breaks my heart when I hear about teachers spending time setting up their class and then just backing out of the page and not saving their work. So use the save button. Okay, so I'm just going to take a moment to pause here because I did just cover a fair amount of material in your in the account settings tab. How's everybody doing for pacing, and do you have any questions for me? Okay, so Mike is asking a question about the weighting of the quizzes. Can I ask how each quiz category is scored? For example, if you have quizzes scored as 10% of the grade, within the quiz category, is each individual quiz added to a score total or percentage? So basically, if you had 10 quizzes that you did throughout the term, and you went ahead and you tagged them as quizzes, and your quizzes only counted as 10% of the total mark, basically each quiz would be worth 1% in total. So you're saying that when you select a category, any quiz that is created, it's going to weigh up to 10% of the mark in total. Mike, I don't know if that answers your question. If anything else, Mike, we can take this offline. I'm just reading your chat here. Okay, so we've got a question here. So how can we create your own class if you want to provide intervention separate from the classroom? So I think I'm understanding where your question is coming from here. So basically what you have the option of is with our SIS system, again, what we share with FreshGrade or what was shared in FreshGrade is ultimately pulled direct from your SIS. Sorry, I'm just going to mute somebody. I can hear somebody's mic. Where are we here? Muted. There we go. Perfect. So yeah, whatever's shared with us from the SIS is what's reflected in FreshGrade. There is an opportunity to potentially do some data manipulation on the back end, but that does require quite a bit of work from tech. So what I suggest to users so that they are not blocked on being able to do some things on the side, and what I would encourage you to partner with your administrative leaders, just because I may not be understanding your question properly here, but you could create a free account, for an example, to have a class that you could have on the side that would allow for you to manipulate and add students. But maybe what we'll do is we can also take that one at the end to support, and maybe loop Jordan in on that question as well at the end. But this is great. Questions are good, you guys. I really encourage them, so please send them my way. If you're asking it, chances are there's somebody else in the room that's asking the exact same question as well. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to keep moving along here. I'll keep referring back to the chat panel to check and see if there's any other questions. Oh, one final thing I forgot to share with you guys. You got to set up your avatar, right? So if you just click on your icon, so if you haven't created an avatar already, it will be just a cartoony face. So again, if you just click on it, you can upload any photo of yourself. It's actually even easier on the iPad because you don't have to even have the photo on file. You can just take a picture of yourself on the iPad and then load it up right away. But also keep in mind, you don't even necessarily have to do a photo of yourself. You could choose an avatar. You know, I saw one class where they actually set it up to be all Disney characters. And the one elementary school teacher was Mary Poppins, and it was quite cute. So, you know, again, use it, make it fun. If it can be subject specific. I mean, again, right now, I used to be a music teacher. So right away, I'm thinking, oh man, how cool would it be for my music class to have me as like the conductor and then have each of my students represented by an icon of the instrument they play. So again, you can get fun. You can have fun with it, right? Which is good. Great. So we're going to go ahead now and we're going to go into the actual portfolio, because what I want to show you guys is, now that we've set up our class, and keep in mind, for those of you that are teaching multiple classes, you will have to do this for each one. Yeah, we recognize that that's probably not the most efficient way to do it. And so we are looking at doing ways to create batch settings and that kind of thing. So it's something that you'll have to deal with this year, but we're hoping for next year that we will be able to streamline the process and reduce the amount of clicks that you guys have to do, because you're super, super busy. And if we can make this streamlined, we would love to hear feedback from you guys. And so again, you're going to hear me say this a few times, but write in at support@freshgrade.com. They also take and track every single piece of feedback that we receive from users, and we count it up. And if we see that there's a huge pile of requests for a feature, obviously that's high in demand, and we'll prioritize that over, you know, one-off kind of special requests. So keep that in mind, and please do give us feedback so we can continue to improve the app. Okay, so jumping into portfolios, the next step of this is we need to be inviting our parents and students into the portfolio. So there's a few ways you can approach this. Some districts and some schools, they say, you know, we want to use FreshGrade from day one. We want to use it to its full potential and go. And I really appreciate the enthusiasm, but sometimes that can be a little bit challenging for the teacher, just because, again, you guys are insanely busy with so many other initiatives and things going on. So, you know, I've talked to Jordan about this a few times, and, you know, we want to nurture your learning process. And so what we suggest is take it all in stride, just get started. And the cool thing about this too is, keep in mind that before you invite your parents and students in, this is literally closed down. So no one is going to see it. And so, you know, what I would even suggest is maybe you pick up FreshGrade, you go ahead and you create student portfolios in the background, you use the app, but you actually don't invite students or parents in, maybe until January or later, depending on your comfort level and how you're learning. But this is the cool thing, is once you do invite your parents and students in, they'll be able to see all of the artifacts of learning and all of the amazing portfolio submissions that you've put in for the student right up until the beginning. So it could almost be like a neat little Christmas present or something for them to go back and see what their students have done over the past, 3-6 months. Whatever that timeline looks like for you, I would say take it in stride and do what you feel comfortable with. I know that inviting parents into a classroom can be a very intimidating thing. And so we want to make sure that you're feeling confident in your skill set and confident with the app to be inviting an external audience into your classroom. So with that being said, I'm going to fast forward and pretend that we are ready to rock and ready to go with inviting our students and parents in, and I'm going to show you what that flow looks like. Great. Okay. So what you'll see here is if I scroll and zoom in just a little bit, Jacob Abbott I always use. He's my star student, and this is what it looks like when a student is connected to their portfolio. They will have a username and their grade. And if I scroll, you'll see Amelia is connected, Willie, because these guys all have usernames: Willie B2, Susie F. So if I scroll, then you'll notice Tarn and Arthur and Savannah. These students, they don't have a username. Missy does. And so what's happened here is this is the difference between the student being connected to the portfolio. So they can install the app and log in and they have an account and they can see all the portfolio stuff, or they can't. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on a student right now. I'm going to decide to invite Georgia in. And this is what I was talking about, how right now you do have to invite each student in for each of your classes. And we are looking at revamping that next year, so you can do a batch invite. So, bear with us. We continue to try to make it a bit more streamlined for you. So I click on Georgia, and this takes me into her portfolio. And if you haven't used the portfolio yet, this will be blank. I'll come back to the portfolio in just a second here. But you'll notice that parental consent is required. So this is saying to me that Georgia is not connected whatsoever. She has no audience. Under the parent information, once you've connected parents, they'll be listed here, their names. And so this is a non-live account essentially. So you can go ahead and post stuff in here and upload artifacts and pictures, but no one is going to be receiving it except for you. So to invite your parents and students in, we're going to click on Manage Parents. So again, I'll show you this flow under the Portfolio tab. I'm going to scroll down, and I was going to do Georgia, so I'm going to click on Georgia, and then Managed Parents is where we're going to go on this. And so again, all this info that we have is pulled in through MyEdBC. And so the nice thing here is that we've got Angela and Daniel Monroe as Georgia's parents here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with giving Georgia access. And so the very first thing that we have to do is make sure that we have permission for the student access. You'll notice it says pending. So we haven't actually taken action on this account. So the next step to provide access to the student is to invite. And it generated an access code. Whoops, wrong way. It generated an access code for us. Now, keep in mind, this access code only needs to be used once. This is a once a year kind of deal for your students to get linked into your class, or if your terms change, I guess it would be once per term for each time your classes roll over. But then what we need to do is we need to get your students to create an account if they're wanting their portfolio access. And so at the middle school and high school level, I suspect that this could be a little more self-serve as opposed to, at the elementary school level. But, right here, we try to make it as easy for students and parents to get signed up. So we actually provide a print PDF. You can see it here. It's one nice page. If I kind of scroll out of this, it's pretty user-friendly. It's not big words. We've tried to make it student-friendly, and it provides all the directions that they need to log in. So, what I would recommend is you could go ahead and print this off and include it as part of, the parent intro package and send it home with the student. Or alternatively, if you know that you've got the green light and support of your parents, that you could actually just do this in class as an orientation to FreshGrade. So I've seen it done in a few different ways, and I don't know if that inspires and gives you thoughts as to how this could be done. So we've gone ahead and we've given this access code to Georgia, and I'm now going to simulate Georgia's role in this process. I'm going to take this access code, Command copy, and I'm now going to go to the student tab. Remember, I was saying I've got my parent or my teacher login here, student here, and then parent here, just so we can see the interactions between the accounts. So I'm now going to go in as Georgia, following those instructions to go to FreshGrade. I'm going to go under login, and I'm going to go under student. And so here it's going to take me to this page. And right away it goes, hello, go ahead and enter an access code. And so the student, if they're brand new to FreshGrade, they've never used it before, they're going to go ahead and enter the access code and click View Portfolio. Great. And so now what would happen is if they previously had a portfolio, maybe they had FreshGrade last year, that's all that would be required. They have an account already from last year. They just need to enter that access code and away they go. They are now linked to your class. However, if it is the first time for them, they've never used FreshGrade before, there is one final step. And this is it right here. Georgia needs to create an account with us. And so I did some follow up on your district. And as of right now, my understanding is that you do not have student SSO. And so the student manages the password themselves. And so FreshGrade, fortunately, will generate a username and then they put in their own password. And again, for high school and middle school, I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue. Obviously, there are certain cases where that could be a challenge. But the nice thing is that the teacher does manage, the teacher has control to reset a password. So the student can always come back to them. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and create a password. I believe you need 8 characters. Yes. And then I'm going to go ahead and create an account. And so now Georgia is officially linked. She has an account. She can download the app and have that on her phone so that whenever you put an activity or an assignment or an assessment out, she'll get a push notification. And she's also able to add and upload her own content and also comment on anything that is in the portfolio. And I'll just show you really quickly. If I now go back to the teacher tab, I'm just going to get out of this print code section here. Just give it a second to load. You will notice that it says that she is now connected. So that is a completed flow for creating a student account and being linked into a class. So to summarize, if the student has already got a FreshGrade account, all they have to do is punch in the code and that's it. If they are new to FreshGrade, they will need to punch in the code and then create their account. Right here, teachers, is your reset password option, and you can actually set the password as well. So if you are concerned about students managing their own passwords, you can actually set it up. You can change it on them once they've created the account. So that might help to give you a little bit more control into their accounts. So I am just going to pop back to the chat panel and see how everybody is doing. Yeah, and so again, just to iterate here, everybody, so you do have to create the access code once per class per time it runs. But again, the setting up the account is only once. So once that student has that account, they just go ahead and punch in those access codes and they'll see their classes pulled into that account. And it only needs to happen one time. After that, the login flow will look like this. So I'm actually going to log out. This is actually a very nice segue. I'm going to log out of Georgia here, and I'm actually going to sign into Jacob Abbott because he is who's linked to the parent and the student account and everything else. So I'm going to just go back to FreshGrade, and so now I'm going to be a student that is connected and logged in. And so this is the flow that you can expect to see your students use on a day-to-day basis once they're set up. So we're going to go into student. And so right here, it wants to auto default to an access code. But if your student already has connected everything, you just go to I have an account. So Jacob A has his password and his username, log in, and you're connected. So again, this is administrative setup for your class, right? And then it's ready to go. And Jacob, so again, with Jacob being in grade 6 in this demo account, if we were to pretend that Jacob was in, say, grade 11 and he's got, 8 courses, you would actually see his discrete courses with all of his different teachers listed under this list here. And then similarly, it would be for the parent view, which I'll show you right now, actually. So parent view is exactly the same. And I'll just show you this really quickly. You notice that the parents, they do not have an upload feature. Parents are only able to comment as opposed to Jacob. Close that sidebar. He can upload and comment and also add new portfolio pieces. So especially for high school level, middle school and high school level. This is really powerful to put learning back in the hands of the student and make them accountable. This is also a great tool for reflection as well. So, again, you can set up classroom expectations around what a student should be posting, what isn't a meaningful artifact of learning, and also getting them to reflect on their work. So really kind of flexing that metacognitive muscle and getting them to think about one's thinking and reflect on the work that they've submitted and what makes a quality portfolio upload. So with Jacob, as I said, the menu, he would see all of his classes here for students, and the parent view is pretty much identical. So a parent can also have multiple children, obviously, and so if they had a couple siblings, there could be Jacob Abbott and maybe, I don't know, a Carrie Abbott, and those would be the two students in different grades, and you'd see all their classes listed. And so you just toggle between them, and that would be the experience there. So this is a different class that Jacob is in. So I hope you guys appreciate that student and parent view to kind of wrap your head around how this app is connected and working. Okay, excellent. So how's everybody doing? Are we okay so far? My goal is to fill your brains, but to not overwhelm you. Okay, I'll keep moving. So the next piece is we've gone ahead and we've invited Georgia. She is connected now. But what we're going to do now is we're going to invite Georgia's parents in. And so the way that you can wrap your mind around the portfolio view for parents is there's almost like 3 tiers that you can do. So the first one is no portfolio access at all. So it would be just as this. If I scroll down, you'll see parent access. There are no parents that are currently connected to the portfolio. So as I said, no parent access. You can just leave this information. By the way, if this email contact info isn't correct, again, we've pulled it from MyEdBC. So what needs to happen is we need to have administrative clerics update that info to MyEdBC. We do an upload every night to refresh basically enrollments and everything else. And so you would just have to get that submitted and then wait for 24 hours for it to refresh, and that data would be changed. So just a little tip for you there. So I'm a teacher. I want to invite Georgia's parents in. So I'm going to go ahead and click Give Portfolio Access. And this is going to jump me to the bottom of the page. So all I did is click Portfolio Access, and it popped me down to the bottom where it says Parent Access. And so it's just pulled the information down so you don't have to manually enter it yourself. Again, another benefit of your integration. And you're going to go ahead and click Save. And so now what this has done, you will notice it says highlights only. And so what highlights means is that it's only going to send emails into a parent's inbox. So when you post a photo, for an example, you have the choice of either sharing it as a highlight or not doing any action, and it just gets loaded to the portfolio automatically. So why would you use highlights as opposed to a full portfolio access? There's a couple reasons. So one, it's that half step between being fully visible to parents and not being visible at all. So you still control what they see when you send emails home, when you send them out to the parent. This is also really handy for if your parents do not have a smart device and maybe they're not interested or they're not interested in the full portfolio access. That will still allow them to have insight into the classroom, and you can choose which highlights to send. Also for those that maybe aren't the most tech savvy of parents or even grandparents, right? Maybe they've figured out email, but the smart device and web browsing is maybe just a little bit too much for them. So that provides that flexibility. So highlights, the word highlight is a fancy word for sending an email to the parent. If you are wanting to provide full portfolio access, so this is where the parent can log in, create their account, and then also have it on their smartphone or iPad so that they can see all activity, you go ahead and you click invite. And so here it'll say that an invite has been sent, and then the parent will receive an email in their inbox that looks just like this. So you're invited, it gives a little bit of info about it, it shows you where to log in, and sort of similar to the student experience. If they are brand new and they've never used FreshGrade, they will have to create an account, and they only have to do this once, and then they'll go ahead and they'll see an invite tab. So I'll show you, I don't have it set up, but if I were Jacob's mom here, and he started a new year, she would go under the invite section right here. And right now I shouldn't have any invites. I'd be surprised if I did. But starting up the classes, this is where they would accept the invites, and they would then be populated under this tab here. So, and again, parents, they manage their own username and password. Cool. Okay. So how is that? Do you guys feel comfortable with the difference between highlights and full portfolio access, and then of course not showing the portfolio at all? Ooh, okay. So there's a couple questions here. Can we shut off notifications from parents to teachers? We see a lot of conversations between parents and students. Right now, no, we can't. And, I guess for you on your end, we can't refine that. We can't really discriminate between, updates that you're receiving that might be meaningful to you, as opposed to, an actual upload or post. I think that's fantastic feedback. And again, I think it's great that if there are conversations that are relevant to the subject matter that's been posted, I think that that's healthy, but I can see how that could be a little bit onerous for the teacher to be getting those notifications. There is a way to actually shut off notifications completely on your app in the app settings. You can shut those off. But as of right now, we have no way to really select which notifications don't get pushed through. But yeah, Jordan just said, yes, you can manage your alerts on your smartphone or tablet. And Jordan, you are right. Just what I'm saying is that you can't, it's either, my understanding of the app right now is you can either turn on notifications or turn them off. So we can't get granular on that yet to decide which notifications come through. But I think that's fantastic feedback though, because I can definitely understand, how maybe dinner conversations we could get into that. Okay. All right. So moving on, you guys are doing good. Okay, so excellent. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to hop back onto the web here. And let's go into the portfolio view. So we're going to assume that we have invited all of our students in, or not. Maybe you just want to go ahead and start posting the portfolios, but that's the basic gist of setting up your managed account. A couple other features for you, benefits of the managed account is the portfolio history project. So this is pretty cool in that right here, if you click on it, what this provides visibility to the teacher to your students' previous year's portfolios. This is a feature we just released to managed districts this summer. So this is very, very new. So if you're using FreshGrade for the first time, you will be able to click on your students' portfolios. If they had a portfolio last year, this menu will be available. If you have students that are brand new to FreshGrade, you won't see this until next year. But again, previously only parents and students could see the historical portfolios of their students over the years, but we've provided this functionality to teachers. I think it's a really powerful tool to allow for teachers, instead of just getting a slip of paper, basically giving a quick summary of where Jacob left off in grade 5 coming into grade 6, or where Susan left off in grade 10 coming into grade 11 in her classes. It allows the teacher to go in and they can actually drill down into all of their classes from the previous year and see where they were at on their learning journey. And keep in mind that this portfolio view is read-only. So you can't edit, you can't touch, you can't really change anything because this wasn't your portfolio to edit. This was something that was generated by another teacher. So that's another huge feature of having the managed account. And I think that's going to be a big ace up their sleeve for districts that have this advantage. Other benefits of integration, you do get tier 1 customer support from our support team. This is just a call out for you guys. Make sure that when you are writing in for support, you are writing in from your SD23 email address. We've applied filters to our inbox, and so those that are writing in for managed account email addresses, you're given priority over free users. So just make sure you're writing in from sd23.bc.ca, and we'll be getting to you as quick as we possibly can. Okay, so moving into the portfolio section. So let's go check out Jacob's portfolio here. And so obviously I've got some content populated. The portfolio itself is pretty user friendly, but I do want to just kind of give a quick overview of this. And so I'm going to zoom out just so you guys can see a little bit more of the content that is in here. And so you can kind of see pictures and you can see assignments that have been loaded up, lots and lots of artifacts of learning. And this is where, again, with you being teaching high school and middle school, I really would encourage you to, when you get comfortable with it, I know there's sort of this fear of, giving students ownership of their uploads. Keep in mind, though, that when they upload, you see who uploaded the work. There's no question as to whether the post came from the student or from the teacher. That's really important to note. So again, I look at it as FreshGrade is a closed platform. So even though we use the similar functionality as social media, like Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter, we are not open to the world to see. So if Jacob Abbott was to make a questionable post, maybe it was an opportunity to learn about digital citizenship. The nice thing is that the only people that will see it are mom and dad, and then the teacher and any other collaborators that have been invited into the classroom. So it's a great opportunity to make mistakes and to learn from them, so that as they prepare for life in the real world, they have that safety net, that learning opportunity. So again, one best practice that I can share with you is set up those expectations with the class and determine, what makes a good post, what is the etiquette of the post, what are the expectations on a portfolio post, and that can go for teachers as well. So consider this. I have one great model that a district used where they suggested that for each subject a teacher taught, that they collect 3 to 4 artifacts of learning every 6 to 8 weeks. That is, I would think, again, depending on class size, taking that into consideration, that I think is pretty manageable. We have seen the opposite where teachers are trying to post everything all the time and they burn out. It's exhausting. So again, my piece of advice before we dig into the portfolio is be intentional with what you're posting and also be reflective of the time that it will take. And so again, if you can encourage your students to partner with you in uploading, I think that it would be a really big win. Just referring back to my chat panel really quickly. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jordan, for just giving some tips and tricks there. So, whoops, that's my Slack channel. Let's go into web. Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is just show you a portfolio post really quickly. So to add to portfolio, it will give you a date for posting. You can manipulate the date. It will still post into FreshGrade, but if you wanted to, post date it or however you want to go ahead about doing that, it will just change the date of the posting that it shows in the portfolio. So I'm just going to leave it. And this is where you can upload files. So say for an example, you recorded, Jacob on the sports field and he just scored the winning goal in soccer. And that was just a really cool moment for him, a milestone moment. Or maybe you've got Jacob and he's reading out loud or doing a really cool presentation in Bio 12 class. Again, speaking out, doing a book report, lots and lots of potential things. Maybe it's just an example of work in art class. Lots of opportunity here. So you've collected and gathered the work. You can upload it onto FreshGrade. And so in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and throw something up here just to show how this connects. Cool. I'll just go ahead and throw a screenshot of the invite. And so here you can provide some notes. So if you wanted to make a comment on why you're posting it, right? Again, what's the why? Let's be intentional with this and let's not make this about social media where we're just posting selfies. I'm amazed to see that that's not the case, but it is easy to go that way. So again, always provide a justification would be my suggestion as to why you're posting it. And again, it could be speaking into a curricular competency, but it could also be getting into those soft skills as well, right? So again, organization, leadership, collaboration. There's lots of opportunities here. So again, you can leave an impression. Again, at the high school and middle school level, this could be a powerful tool or not. Some teachers choose to not use it at all. So again, it's up to you. You can leave that blank, and you can upload multiple files at a time as well. And so then you can go ahead and you can click post. And so again, processing time might be a little bit slower here just because I am streaming audio and video, but that was still pretty darn quick. I'm not going to complain about that. And so then of course, this is where you can go back and you can edit it, you can remove it, you could delete the entire post if you wanted. Another feature here that's really cool is a keep private feature for everybody. So this is what you would imagine. It doesn't allow parents or students to see the post. Keep in mind that any collaborators you have in your class, any colleagues, they will see it. Where have I seen this be used? This is great for teachers that maybe want to create assignments and activities, and they don't want their students to act on them yet. So I've seen some teachers actually preload all of their activities into their grade book and then just go ahead and mark them as private until they're ready for those assignments to be released onto the portfolio. I've also seen this be used for anecdotal evidence that maybe you don't want to call into question quite yet. So for an example, maybe some behavioral observations that you've seen in the last week or so with a student where it's uncharacteristic of them. You obviously don't want to post, a video of Jacob wearing a lampshade on his head if it's the first time he's ever done it and being disruptive in class, but it's something to just kind of keep on the back burner, post it as private, and then maybe bring it up for parent-teacher interview night. So again, if it's just information you just want to kind of sit on and not necessarily act on, that's a really, really powerful tool for that. So if you mark it keep private, you might notice here that the post becomes red. So there's a nice little kind of visual cue there for you as well. And you can change it to public at any time that you would like as well. Okay, and so then I'm just going to go ahead and click save. Perfect. So that is uploading to the portfolio. Again, what we'll be getting into when we get into the on-site is we'll be talking more about the tangibles of what makes a good portfolio. So what should you be looking for? What kind of practices have been successful in displaying and communicating student learning over time? So again, today I'd love to get into it, but it's just more about the button clicking to show you how the portfolio functions and to encourage you to start collecting evidence of learning and start thinking about how it can be applied. Another little fun tip for you as well is there is a filter, which is going to be incredibly helpful. In the case for high school, you might not necessarily need to filter by subject because, well, hey, you might just, this class will probably just be the one subject. So again, math 10 or something like that. But there is also opportunities to filter by private. So we can include private only. And so this is where it will go ahead and filter for us. All right, come on, what did I do here? Oh, cancel, lots of labels. So again, whatever labels you've put in your grade book as well, we'll go private only, submit. Maybe I didn't click that last time. There we go, perfect, I just didn't click it. So here it just allows you to drill down your entire portfolio just for those private comments, for an example. So very powerful tool, and again, depending on how you've posted things and how you've organized your grade book and attached subjects and assignments, this is a really, really powerful tool. Something to call out, you can get rid of the filter as well by clicking reset filter. Something to call out right now is there isn't filtering functionality for parents or for students. We really focused on the app for teachers first, and so we are now just in the process of looking at bringing the parent and student apps a couple more functions that will be really helpful. So stay tuned on that, but we did want to focus on the teachers first. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back to the chat panel just to see how everybody is doing here. Nice, cool. Thank you, Jordan. Those are great little comments there. All right, well, the final piece of what I'm going to get into today is I'm going to hop into the grade book then. So again, the portfolio is fantastic in that you can upload work, you can upload videos and do the commenting. But the other piece that's really powerful for this is supporting the new curriculum, as we talked about, and how do we track it, especially for those that may have been really well acquainted with the original curriculum. To face a new one, a total revamp can be a bit of a challenge. And again, it's much more flexible and loose in its structure. So what we want to do is I want to show you the grade book because we have a really powerful objective tracking tool as well that can be used in tandem with the portfolio. So to access the grade book, I'm going to go ahead and click on grade book. So just give this guy a second to load. And there's my grade book to start. Now, this one is a little bit more set up for elementary school. So what I'll show you guys is let's go ahead and just create an assignment right now. And so your create add activity is right up here. And so we could go ahead and call this, a nonfiction reading assignment if this was, English 10 or something, book report. I mean, again, whatever the assignment is, you can date it. Description. So the description will be viewable to both parents and students. And so this can be a useful section to provide, just instructions for the assignment, what your expectations are in curriculum. We currently do not support a rubric builder, but that's been a really big request, a big ask for the last little bit. So, stay tuned on that. In the meantime, for uses of grading, you can attach resources. So right here, add resource. That will allow for you to put in a web link. That will allow you to refer to a blog or maybe a Google Doc, for an example. If you have a PDF or a Word doc of your assignment, if you don't want to go to the trouble of retyping it out here, you can simply attach the resources, and those will be available for the parent and the student to download and access and view. So categories. So this is where we were kind of asking before. So for an example, just to try to flesh this out for you guys, I think in my settings, I had quizzes weighted at 10%. So basically if I had 5 quizzes throughout the term and I tagged it as a quiz, that means each quiz would be worth 2% overall in the grades. If I had 20 quizzes over the school year, then they'd be worth 0.5% towards that 10% of the total grade. So again, this provides the weighting that would probably be very useful for high school and middle school teachers when you're having to provide an actual letter grade and percentage. So just keep that in mind there. And then labels. This is something that is also only available to the teacher view, but this is really helpful for filtering. So I showed you filtering in the portfolio. So if you tagged something with a particular label, you could pull that label up. And this is also the same for the grade book as well. In the grade book, you can filter by label. And so here, I just went ahead and created some labels. And so for this assignment, we could say that this is a term 1 assignment as well. If you are, again, discrete by subject, there's probably no need for you to identify, social studies labeled, because all of your activities and assessments within this class will be social studies. But it might be helpful for you to, again, if you're on a semester system, you probably don't even actually need terms. So that's another consideration there. But you could argue that maybe it's a collaborative assignment. Maybe, again, those core competencies, if you will, you could create labels for that to address them, but they will also be tagged under the objectives. So this is where you could just, you want to highlight if an assignment has been late, for an example, by a student, or maybe it's a modified or adapted assignment. It allows for you to just drill down into your grade book. So the tool is there. Use it as you see fit. And again, play with it and talk to other teachers. Keep tuning into webinars with us. Keep checking out our blog to see how other people have structured their tagging system, if you will. The next piece that we've got is add objective. So this is the objective tracking. Now, you recall that I had all of my subjects selected. So there are all of the subjects, and I can drill down further and I can go into these grades. Now, keep in mind that my demo account is stuck as a grade 6 class, but this view, this experience for high school and middle school teachers should be the same, just providing you've set up your objectives, you've reduced it to the subjects that you teach in that class. You won't have to go through all of these menus for all of these. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and pick some objectives here. I'm just going to randomly attach them. And then you can have multiple objectives as well. They can even be interdisciplinary. So again, you could pick a language arts assignment, but it could also be partially social studies as well. And you could go ahead and tag it that way too. And so there's all the objectives there from the new 2015-2016 curriculum. And this is what will give your assignment, your activity, if you will, a tag of a subject. So if I wanted to filter, this activity would be pulled up by a language arts filter or a social studies filter. And then add resources. You can go ahead and upload a file here. Great. So I've got a resource for the students to look at as well. And then if I wanted to provide a score for an example, I could go ahead and just say this is a score. Maybe we want to give it a score out of, I don't know, 10 points for them. So it's a nonfiction reading assignment. Read it, give me a summary of what it says, answer some questions, and we're going to give it a score out of 10. And so here's what I was talking about preloading activities in, is this is your tagging system for students. So right now I've got my entire class tagged. And so when I create this activity, it will appear on their portfolio. And then you can assess them after they've submitted their work. But here's the cool thing is that you don't have to always just tag your entire class. So if you had a 5-6 split class, or again, sorry, go back into middle school and high school, maybe you had a grade 9-10 split class of some sort, you could actually just select your grade 9s for an example. Right, and just okay, yep, there you go. So there's your grade 9 class, and so you could go ahead and tag them on this activity, and then you go back and recreate the other one for your grade 10s. So it does allow for flexibility on who gets tagged onto what assignments, and then also for those that are on adapted plans, right? So I mean, you can also just create an assignment just for them. Now, my suggestion was if you want to go ahead and create all of your activities for the year ahead of time, preload your activities, if you will, you could just not tag any of your students. And so then you could click save, and from there, the activity is there, it's ready to rock. And all you have to do when you're ready for it to be released to your students is go ahead and tag them and click save. I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to click save and I'll show you this activity that's popped up. So our nonfiction reading assignment, we'll call this one number 1. And we could say this would be an assignment classwork. And so again, I can't remember what I had assignments and classwork set at, maybe 25%. So if I only had the one nonfiction reading assignment this term, it would be worth 25%. But if all of a sudden, if I had 4 of those, it would be spread out over that percentage. So I hope that makes sense as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click save. Don't forget to save, right? That's a big one. I've had teachers create these amazing activities and then they forgot to save. Just popping back to the chat panel really quickly here. Okay, so far so good. Excellent. So once you've created your activity, this is where you can assess it. If you assign it right away, you're probably not ready to assess it right away, which is fine. You can just back out of it, but you can access the assessment functionality of your assignment in a couple different places. So there is my nonfiction reading assignment right there, and you can assess. Oh, come on. You can assess it by clicking on the title. Oh, there we go. Now it's popping up. It's going slow for me here. Sorry again, my Wi-Fi. So here's where you could start assessing. So you can give it 10, 9, 5. And close. Sorry, click happy here. 5, 8. Maybe this person was excused because they were sick. I don't believe in giving half points. I used to, but then my students started nickeling and diming me for quarter points, so I had to put an end to it. Okay, so then we can go ahead and mark as complete. And you can always go back as well, right? So you're never locked into your assessment. So if you're wanting to give your student an extra opportunity to go ahead and complete the assignment, you can open that up right here by going change mark. Now, the thing to consider here is that, again, what I appreciate about FreshGrade is, unlike a physical grade book, and I know we're not the only ones to do a grade book, but what I appreciate about digital grade books in general is it usually provides some sort of dashboard to give a high level oversight of how your students have done in the class. So you're not having to manually calculate. So, again, as a teacher, if I saw an average score of maybe 4 out of 10, I'd probably just want to go back and do another activity just to make sure my students are doing okay. So that's really helpful. And again, there's lots of other menu items that I would love to get into, but just in the sake of interest of time, I want to just make sure I'm able to cover the high points here for everybody. So there's the nonfiction reading assignment. And so actually we've gone ahead and assessed it, right? But I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to refresh Jacob's page just to show you guys what this looks like. So we should see that right there. So Jacob got a 10 out of 10. And again, I'll show you what the parent view is. This page has been sitting idle since I've done a post. So again, don't forget to refresh. And there we go. There's my nonfiction reading assignment. And just so you guys see what does the parent see when we look at this. So if we go more, it does map out the curricular objectives that you've hit. There is the assignment right there as well that has been posted, and then the actual documentation. As a teacher, I can go back and I can add notes, right? So, sometimes you don't want to just put an arbitrary mark there. We want to go ahead and provide feedback for our students. So we could go back in, change a mark. And this is where you could go ahead and add an anecdotal comment. You could make notes, give feedback. But, here's the other thing that's really cool too. Depending on where your comfort level is with tech, some teachers I've even seen, they will just video themselves giving some quick feedback. So they'll go ahead and video themselves on their iPad, and they'll literally just post a video feedback of what they've seen. It's a great way to give some FaceTime to your students. Again, I realize the class sizes being really large, sometimes it's difficult to do that. So it really kind of bridges that connection. And sometimes it's quicker, honestly, than writing feedback as well. So, that is something to consider. You could use the iPad and actually upload photos. This is where you could also attach examples of Jacob's work. So again, he's gone ahead and completed something. You could upload it, but this is where I'd put the onus back on the student to do the upload instead of you having to do the work, right? So as Jacob, as a student, what I would do is I would find the assignment. So right here, nonfiction, and I'd go ahead and upload to that assignment. And so, hey, again, Jacob's in grade 6 here, so not quite the same grade levels you guys are teaching, but go ahead and go open. And so now what Jacob has done is he's actually posted his evidence of learning, his assignment, onto the activity. And again, it'll just take a second here, but the activity is now actually attached. And this is where we can start to have comments from mom and dad and just feedback. So, like, hey, Jacob, I noticed that you're writing in Sharpie. Do you have any pencils? And that's where you can even just do a call out to mom and dad even to ask for that. So it just, again, little conversations that may not happen otherwise, which can be really helpful. But again, put it back on the student, especially as they get older. Other portfolio thoughts, we see some students where they're actually inviting with the permission of their parents when they're getting into grade 12, for an example. They're being very, very careful and very intentional with their portfolio pieces because what they're doing towards the end of the year is they're inviting admission officials for universities in as parents so that they can actually get into the portfolio and start to post on the students' work as well. We are continuing to have talks with UBCO, Simon Fraser University, UVic, and they are really starting to catch on to FreshGrade and how they can start to incorporate a digital portfolio into their admission criteria as opposed to a letter grade. Because the difference between a student with an 85% average getting in over top of other students with an 85% average could be the portfolio showpiece because it speaks into their passion, it speaks into their interests as opposed to a number on a page. So just some food for thought there for sure. I'm going to jump back into the grade book. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel out of this guy. And with the grade book, again, as I said, there is the filtering feature here as well. So if you wanted to filter by a subject, again, in this case, it wouldn't be very relevant to you guys because you are probably just teaching the one subject, but we could go into labeled. So let's see if I have any activities here that are just marked collaborative. Let's just see what we get here. Okay, so there's one assignment that is labeled as collaborative, and you can actually save the filter as well. So this is where you could do it by modules, I guess, if you wanted to. So you could tag your lessons by module, and that way you could just call them, module 1, module 2. And once you save a filter, so collaboration in this case, nice, collaboration, go ahead and click save. It'll actually save this filter for you, which is really, really handy, just because you can actually view it at any time. So you'll see I've got some filters that are already created here, which is pretty cool. And so at any time I can go into it and view, and it will pull any activities of that tag in it. So again, if you set up your activities in a way that are easily pulled through a filter, that's going to make your grade books much more manageable, and same for the portfolio. Okay, so how is this all sitting for everybody? Mike, it looks like you had a question, but you're okay. Okay. And then again, just to speak into the grade book, parents and students do not have a grade book view. Good feedback to have, and something that, again, hopefully down the line we will have a grade book view. But also just for you guys, something that's really handy to know, we do have an export to Excel option. So, you know, if a parent is looking for, you know, a quick rundown of how the student is doing, you can export to Excel, go ahead and open up the grade book, and you just have to change the columns so they fit a little bit better. But I'll just show you what this looks like really quickly. And I mean, it's nothing fancy by any means, but you do have all of your assessments and grading in there. You would have to calculate the grade for them, unless you wanted to pull into the report card feature, which will be something that we will continue to discuss. But as of right now, you can provide basically an audit of where your students are in the class. So you're not having to do everything by hand, which is good to know. Okay. Excellent. So one final thing, how are we doing for time here? I just want to see, make sure that we're not going over time. Okay, perfect. One little final thing, and again, we'll dig into this a little bit more when I'm on the on-site and I can see you guys face to face, is the objectives tracking feature. So again, the curriculum that's on everybody's mind, how do I keep on top of this new curriculum? It's a big challenge for teachers. So under the dashboard, I feel like I moved a little bit too fast there, so I'll go back. So under the FreshGrade dashboard, click objectives, and this is where it will pull all the objectives relevant to that class. And so again, if you recall, in my account settings tab, because I'm in a grade 6 class, I have all subjects. But if you were teaching social studies 10, you would go ahead and just select social studies. So you'd only have to see the objectives for socials. And so at the grade 6 level, for an example, there are 6 curriculum outcomes, or sorry, 20 curricular outcomes. And so you can actually open it up and you can filter by category. And if you recall, I was saying that, again, the core competencies, they're not under a bucket, but they are buried within big ideas and content. So if we were just to go to curricular competencies, you can kind of drill down and make this list a little bit smaller, or you can do all categories. And here you can see if I've been tracking my objectives and tagging them to activities, you can see in my one class that I've tackled one assignment or one objective, and it shows you a ratio of where your classes are at, or where your students are at in the class. So we've got 7 people that it did really well. It breaks it down into some middle row, and then we also have half the class that have been doing really low. And so this is your opportunity to intervene. You could even go ahead and create a new activity by just saying, you know what, these 7 students, they need some extra work. I'm going to create an extra assignment for them. Boom. And they should already just be tagged. So it's a way to just a quick win, I think, for you guys to not have to click through a whole bunch of buttons here. But the objective tab, it's a very visual representation of what you have completed, and it allows for you to call out any objectives that you haven't yet tackled for the term or for the class. So again, we'll dig into this a little bit more as to how you can complete these. You do actually have to mark the assignment as complete to get blue. Right now it is assessed, but you still have it open. So again, there's some menu items that we need to talk about there with more time. So with that, we've got about 10 minutes left in this session. I would like to open up the floor to any Q&A or any prompts that Jordan might have for me to speak into. I'm just back on my chat panel now. Awesome. I know some of you guys are sitting in bigger groups, so I just want to give you a minute to chat. As you are chatting, again, as I said, I'd promised that I'd give you guys this link. There is the support at freshgrade.com. And yeah, this is again where this is your first stop. So basically it's like if you can't remember how to do something, or you think the app isn't functioning properly, or you have feedback, this is your first place to go. So this is our team, Siobhan and Jillian. They are fantastic. Siobhan used to actually work at Disney Interactive. She was one of our lead reps there. And so you guys are in really, really good hands. The funny thing is, too, is that Siobhan and I actually carpool in the mornings together. So part of our morning routine is we go and get a Starbucks. And on our way to work, I talk to her about what top drivers we are seeing from the district. So, again, hey, how's SD23 doing? Is there anything I can reach out to? Is there anything that we can help them out with? And, hey, I'm noticing that there's a few tickets on this. And that's where I can just, poke Jordan and maybe give him some tools to help you guys. So we really do try to be really collaborative, and we really do look at ourselves as a team, and we want to support you guys. So again, use that as your primary point of help. And if this doesn't resolve the issue, Jordan and I will work together to find one for you guys for sure. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's webinar. Again, it was intended to be a high level, relatively quick paced overview of what the app can do. I certainly do not expect for everyone to digest everything today. That was a lot to cover for sure, but hopefully it just gives you a little bit of confidence to step in and maybe start playing with the app if you haven't yet. And then I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys face to face on the 21st when I'm on site with you guys. So again, I will stay on the line just for another minute or two here, just in case there is any questions. But otherwise, I'm just going to go ahead and mute myself. And, again, thank you so much for your time, everybody. All right, I've got a great little question here. So, what is the difference between the free option if I wanted to set up my own? So, being new, I would rather practice before posting with someone else. So there's nothing stopping you from having a free account, but do keep in mind that you do have to manually set everything up yourself. So you have to put your classes in there. You've got to go ahead and add your students. If your students end up leaving your class, you have to manually remove them. So again, we fully integrate with the SIS, and we take all of that information in. So other features, as I alluded to, is the portfolio history project. So again, SD23 is really wanting to support growth and use of FreshGrade within the district. And if we do see teachers choosing to use free accounts instead of the managed one, what ends up happening is you won't be able to share the portfolios from one year to the next. We have no way to connect portfolios that were generated under a free account into a district swim lane, if you will. So it's sort of like you guys are in different channels. And then again, we are looking at a lot of other features coming up as well. So for an example, we're looking at doing a full administrative dashboard. So again, your administrators would want to have insight into what you're doing into the class. And so I would absolutely encourage you, if you would like, to start a free account and use it to play, and just that, do a mock student and just see how that functions and operates, but then carry that learning over into your free account or your managed account, just so that evidence of learning can continue. So I hope that helps. And again, just as we continue to build this app out, we are within our first couple years here of really getting started, and we really do want to serve our paid districts. And so I would expect to see even more neat features coming in the next 6 months, in the next year and forward. So again, this is a change in a change in thinking around how we communicate. So, oh, great. That's fantastic. I'm glad that that helps you out. So there's nothing stopping you from a free account, but I would say make sure you're building those portfolios in your managed accounts once you're ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to sit on the line for another 2 minutes here just to see if there's any other questions, and then I'll do a little sign out before I log out. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. So I will wrap up today's session. Again, I have been recording it, so we will be resending it out to anyone that was unable to watch, or maybe you would just appreciate being able to slow it down and be able to rewind and see what it was that I was doing with all those clicks. So again, thank you so much for having me, and I really look forward to meeting you all on October 21st. Anyway, take care. Have a good day.